You believe loss separates you from what you love. You see it as proof that meaning has ended, that what once gave you depth has disappeared. Yet Shams Tabreez questioned this belief. He said loss is not separation, but unveiling. What disappears was never the truth itself, only its temporary expression. The divine, he said, hides himself behind forms so that you may learn to seek what never leaves. When those forms fade, you mistake revelation for absence. Shams called this the first test of understanding. Can you recognize presence even when form dissolves? You say loss breaks you. He said it refines you. If everything transient fades, could that fading itself be the trace of what endures? And if so, is loss destruction or disclosure? You cling to what seems yours because possession feels like existence. The mind believes continuity confirms identity. To lose what you hold is to lose yourself. Shams observed that this grasping is the source of sorrow. The ego transforms love into control and being into defense. You do not love purely, you manage, preserve, protect. The very act of holding makes freedom impossible. You live not to experience, but to prevent disappearance. Yet what if continuity is not the proof of life, but its imitation? If you only feel real by possessing, have you ever known what being truly is? Shams inverted every assumption about deprivation. He said loss is not the collapse of meaning, but its purification. What you call misfortune may be divine mercy, removing what cannot endure truth. The real, he taught, cannot coexist with illusions of permanence. Thus, loss is the act by which the false departs. The divine does not abandon, it reveals. Through absence, awareness learns to see without dependence. Shams called this the fire of friendship, where the beloved burns away all distance. The ordinary mind sees destruction. The awakened mind sees return. Could it be that what you fear has been taken from you is only being reclaimed by its source? For Shams, separation exists only in thought. The divine is never apart. Only attention has wandered. When the self imagines independence, the sense of distance is born. You call this distance loss. Yet it is merely perception correcting itself. When what you love disappears, reality is not less, it is more accurately seen. Loss exposes the error that anything could stand outside the whole. Pain, then, is not punishment, but recognition. It is awareness realizing that its belief in division was never true. Could the ache of loss be consciousness remembering its unity? When you grieve, you think something essential is gone. But Shams taught that what departs is never truth, only its passing form. Meaning cannot die. It returns to its origin. The mind, however, confuses the container for the contained. It mourns form as if being itself had ended. The wise grieve gently, knowing that only appearance changes. To cling to what was is to miss what is. The question, then, is simple yet profound. When everything returns to its source, what is it that truly disappears? The ego survives by continuity. It identifies with control, with the ability to preserve. When loss arrives, its structure trembles. It calls this tremor injustice. Shams called it awakening. He said the heart's rebellion against loss is not proof of love, but of pride. The refusal to see who gives and who takes. The ego says, I had. Awareness says, it was given. The ego says, I lost. Awareness says, it returned. The difference defines the entire journey. Shams urged his students to see loss as divine speech, the language of subtraction. When words fail, God teaches by taking. Are you listening or only lamenting? To Shams, divine compassion was not limited to giving. He said love sometimes removes what blocks union. The mercy that takes away is rarely recognized, for it strips comfort before revealing clarity. But to be emptied is not punishment, it is preparation. Only when the false center collapses can the real occupy its place. The wise heart does not judge by appearance. It reads by purpose. If God's kindness sometimes removes, is love that takes less merciful than love that gives? When you stop arguing with loss, a shift occurs. Attention turns from what is gone to the one who perceives. Shams said this is the moment when reaction becomes reflection. Acceptance does not mean approval, it means understanding. You see that what you sought in the form was never the form itself, but the essence that animated it. When the form disappears, essence remains. Grief becomes insight. Absence becomes remembrance. You begin to sense that what changes is only appearance, not being. If you cease resisting what leaves, does not the changeless quietly appear within your awareness? Union cannot coexist with ownership. To unite with God, the idea of mine must dissolve. Shams taught that what you call having divides you from what is. There is no ownership in truth, only participation. The soul belongs to God, not as possession, but as expression. When you no longer claim, "This is mine," awareness recognizes itself as belonging wholly. The one who owns disappears, and only belonging remains. This is union, not addition, but disappearance of division. Can you still say me when all that remains is what always was? As understanding deepens, grief begins to lose its sharpness. You see that meaning was never lost, only transferred from form to knowing. The heart stops begging for restoration because it realizes nothing essential is gone. Shams said remembrance is the resurrection of what was never dead. What you once called loss becomes clarity, for you now see continuity in transformation. Was anything truly taken, or was it only the illusion of possession that passed away? After the struggle, silence arrives not from exhaustion but comprehension. The search for return ends because you see there was nowhere to return from. Loss was a mirror, not a wound. It revealed what cannot leave. What remains is equilibrium, the awareness that being's unbroken. Shams called this the quiet joy of recognition, when you stop searching for permanence because you have discovered it in the real. If nothing real can be lost, what more is there to defend or desire? Loss dissolves the illusion of distance. Through Shams's teaching, you see that both presence and absence belong to the same divine rhythm. What comes and what goes are movements within the same reality. The divine does not give and then take it, manifests and then withdraws its forms, while remaining unchanged. When this is seen, the argument of grief ends. There is no giver or receiver, no seeker or sought, only awareness unfolding within itself. You realize nothing was ever taken, because nothing was ever separate. This recognition is not emotional relief, it is understanding. Thought rests not in victory, but in stillness. The journey ends in the same silence from which it began. Nothing was lost, and everything remains.